Daniel, and this is Talking Inspiration. And I'm here with Charlotte Windebank, who's co-founder at First and also organises the Startup Awards Northeast.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Peter, and very excited to get started.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so on this episode, we're going to be talking to Charlotte, and we're going to be talking about an object that means something to her, a photograph of somewhere inspiring or someone who might have been inspirational to her, a moment where she found some inspiration when she was out at a dinner or for drinks, and also a moment where they inspired someone else, and also how they find inspiration themselves, and advice for people out there who want to find their own inspiration. Okay, Charlotte, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am Charlotte Windebank. I am passionate about empowering enterprise skills and entrepreneurship because I believe they hold the keys to unlocking some of society's biggest problems. And because of that, 10 years ago, I set up First. And First is essentially a learning and development agency, and we specialise in working with underrepresented founders and under-resourced communities to provide entry-level qualifications in enterprise skills and entrepreneurship, as well as celebrating and showcasing diverse founders, connecting them into the local business community.
Excellent. No, that's really fantastic. That's the kind of thing you want to hear about, is encouraging more startups and that in the Northeast, and that's really good. Okay, so thank you, Charlotte. So what's the object you brought along with you today that inspires you?
So I have bought a very glamorous metro ticket because I hold the metro very dear to me in terms of a very first experience that I had with setting up the business. So one of my first clients was Sunderland City Council, and I was doing some consulting work with them in engaging young people into the services that they had and the provision they had for young people. And I was really trying to figure out how to solve a bit of a problem that I was having. So I'd done a lot of market research and I was trying to get to that light bulb moment. And it was on the metro traveling to the client that it all suddenly, I had this epiphany of how to engage, what to write in this report. And it was the first time that I really kind of embraced that entrepreneurial feeling when you come up with a solution to a problem and that classic aha moment. And I think for me, I'll never forget that because I think it's so important that whenever anyone has that aha moment, that we really recognize that and celebrate that. And you don't have to just be an entrepreneur to have that feeling. And it is such a great feeling. And I think more people should have the opportunity to have those aha moments. Also, as well, we have just, for the very first time, done a big campaign on the metro. So for those outside of the Northeast, you'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? What's a metro? So we have this, it's basically a little train that goes underground, like many cities. And we have our very first campaign going out in the next couple of weeks to encourage the whole of the Northeast to consider self-employment. And for me, this is a really pivotal moment because it's the first time that we've actually had a marketing budget to be able to afford something like that. And so I know that when I see that campaign on our metro system, I'm just going to have that kind of wow, that moment of like, look what we've done. So I'm really excited about that.
That's fantastic. It's amazing you had that aha moment on a metro, and then you get to advertise to other people on the metro who might have their own aha moment and think, you know what I could do? I could maybe start my own business. So that's really fantastic. That's really good.
Thank you. Yay.
That was excellent. Thank you very much. So that makes sense that would mean a lot to you. I mean, the metro system has been part of the Northeast for a very long time. It started like back effectively in 1980. I think I was one of the first passengers on the metro when I was a baby, I think. So it's really cool to see the kind of impact just being on the metro can have with someone, and then the impact that might have on other people is really fantastic to hear.
Yeah, and also like just the accessibility, the fact that especially when you are an early stage founder, I'm speaking from experience, I couldn't afford a car. And, using the metro was the only way to really to get to meetings and stuff. So it's such an important part of the fabric of the Northeast to make sure that everyone has access to be able to go places. And I know that's a really simple thing, but it makes such a big difference when a region is connected. And I can't wait for when we get the investment to get new stops to connect even more communities together, because that's where it starts. You know, that solid infrastructure to build communities, to build those links. And I just can't wait to see what ideas and innovations come out of that when we're more connected.
Yeah, exactly, because all those connections, you never know who might come up with an idea and when, and they might not know those opportunities are out there for them. So that's really, really good to hear. Okay, thank you, Charlotte. That was interesting. So the next thing is a photograph that means something to you of somewhere or something that is significant to you. Can you show us what that is?
Yes, so I've done it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit self-indulgent, I guess, because it's a picture of me. So
Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, so basically it's me as a what do they call them? A mature student, graduating from my executive MBA that I did 2 years ago. And I always thought that an MBA was not accessible for me because of the considerable amount of money that it takes to afford something like that. But I was very fortunate to be awarded a scholarship as a sustainable leader and an underrepresented founder to actually have the opportunity to do it fully funded by Newcastle University Business School. And I think for me, it was an absolute game changer, and the first time that I was in education where I could actually apply myself instead of going through, you know, the education system and just sort of being there and, you know, passive. It was the first time I've ever fully been interactive and immersed and passionate about what it is I was doing. So I'm very happy and proud of that moment. And I think the more opportunities that universities have to make those kind of qualifications accessible, I'm all for it, because I know that because of that training, I will be creating a ripple effect in my community and taking people along with me from what I've learned in those 2 years. And there's some great stuff out there now for people. And I really do hope that they keep the level 7 strategic leadership apprenticeship, because it is so important, especially for founders, to keep on that learning journey. And without accessible qualifications like that, how else are people going to be able to afford that, especially as a startup founder? I mean, you know, all money is so carefully saved and scrutinized and everything. So the idea of even spending some money on yourself is just ludicrous, because you're putting it all into the business. You know, I mean, speaking from my own experience, everything is the business. And then it's just like, you know, for me, I got 8 years down the line and I was like, blooming heck, I haven't paid for any training or anything for me. And I was 27 when I started the business, and recognized really in 2020 that first was at a tipping point. So there's only so much as a young founder you can grow the business, because, you know, your experience and skills kind of reach a point and you're like, I don't know. And, you know, you can lean on mentors, and so I have a non-exec director board who are fabulous, but there's only so much they can take you. And the strategic level 7 apprenticeship route can really bolster that experience and makes it, they call it like sense making. So all of that stuff that you're doing in the workplace and then applying it into an academic setting for you to kind of unpick it, reflect, find out what evidence is out there to suggest where the business growth might be, and recognizing also as well, I think what I found from the MBA was all of the challenges that I'd had as a business owner are pretty much standard, you know, and there's nothing unique. And if you've got a problem with the business, there is some research
Yeah.
to tell you why that was a problem. And I just think everyone should be able to have access to that knowledge. So, yeah, I know. So, yeah, I think you can tell that I'm quite passionate about learning.
No, it makes sense because it's like anything that opens up opportunities for more people. And also to say that you're not alone. You know, when you're starting your own business, you think all the problems are probably unique to you. I'm the only one experiencing these issues. Everyone else has had this amazing success. Why am I struggling? Then I guess something like this makes you realize that these are common issues and everyone can help each other. And having more opportunities for people to do that and understand that and then help grow their own businesses even more is really great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be able to challenge you as well. Like, I think what I got as well is that peer support. And then a lot of my cohort, so I was the only business owner on the cohort, and everyone else was like corporate. And it was great because there were times when I'd be like, why are you settling for that? Like, tell your boss that you will not stand for that. Because if I was your employer and someone came to me and told me that, I'd be like, okay, great, let's change it. Let's see what we do. In the flip side, that corporate processes and the way things are done, I really learned from to then apply back into my own business. And a lot of people during the times, well, they changed jobs. Some actually started businesses as well, which was really exciting.
Cool.
And yeah, I think you all go on this journey together. And we've still now got this network of pals, and we meet up and we share experiences. And so, yeah, any opportunity for anyone to get that little network of like-minded people that are going through similar things in their career, I'm all for it.
Absolutely, because it's like a chance for people to talk to each other. And if they are experiencing any more issues, they can sort of resolve them. You know, you're all on that journey together, you know, whether you've just started the business thanks to the course or you wanted to learn more from what you were doing already. But it really adds that extra level of support that you wouldn't get otherwise. And the fact that it's ongoing beyond the course is really, really nice to hear.
Yeah, and we're taking some of those learnings as well from the MBA and applying that back into the entry-level qualifications that we do. So everyone gets part of this WhatsApp group. They then have that WhatsApp group forever. And even courses that we ran 2 or 3 years ago, the WhatsApp groups are still popping off.
Yeah.
And it's just a great way for people to share connections. And it's such a simple tool. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate education especially, and you know, we try and manufacture these situations where people can get together without getting back down to the simplicity of, well, let's just create a space where people feel they can share.
Yeah.
Like, why do we need an app for it? Why do we need to make it onto an online digital platform? Like, no, let's strip it back. Let's get conversations going, and let's utilize accessible channels like face-to-face, like WhatsApp, that everyone is familiar with, to create those connections and value.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's those conversations that are important, not the platform. You just use what's ever appropriate, whether that's in person, face-to-face, or, you know, through whatever communication method that makes sense, because you just want people to relax enough they can have a chat, learn what each other is doing, share their stories, share things that aren't quite going right and find solutions, or say how things are going well and just sort of encourage everyone. You know, when everyone encourages everyone else, it brings everyone up together, and it's really good to sort of foster that and bring that back outside of the program as well for everyone to benefit is really, really good as well.
Yeah, and you know, and if you look at how we first met, Peter, it was, you know, networking years and years and years ago. And who'd have thought from our chance connection we'd be now in a podcast studio
Exactly.
together.
I know. It's the kind of thing, you never know what might happen in what person's journey. I know when we first met, I think you were managing the cafe at the place where I worked. And I just remember you there and you were just so in control of what was going on there. And I was always impressed. Always said hello, you know. And I just thought, this is somebody that I think is going to go in an interesting direction, but I had no idea. And I was so proud to see your journey sort of progress from there and think, That's amazing. Every time I'd see a post or an update, it would just be like, that's an amazing. It's just been fantastic to see that kind of journey of first, I guess, start out and progress as it is. And it's just like when you make those initial connections with someone, you never know where those might end up. Someone you might meet today might be, your boss tomorrow. You just never know who you might meet. But it's just it is kind of inspirational, I guess, to say in a way, to see somebody's journey like yourself and just see the kind of impact that you have, especially in the Northeast. It's been really good to see.
I just remember thank you, Peter. And I just remember those days, like I'd be like buttering these sandwiches in the back and like for all these like business people, and I'd be like, one of these days I'm gonna be like you. And I just never forget that. But yeah, no, and working in the cafe was such formative experience for me because I got to run a business with someone else's money. And that was just fabulous. So I could just do what I want.
Yeah.
Well, no, I couldn't do what I want, obviously. But I got to test. I got to experience that. And I think sometimes people are especially when we interview people now, they're almost like, oh, well, yeah, I worked in hospitality and stuff. And I was like, no, be proud of that.
Yeah.
Like hospitality, I can tell you now, it was the hardest job I ever had to do. Like that stress that, you have no idea who's going to come through the door, trying to manage people, trying to sort the till out. Oh my God, the phone's broken, the fridge is broken. We've got environmental health coming in to do their, regular inspections. Not because they they weren't an intervention or anything, but it's just chaos all of the time. And I think every young person should have an experience of being in hospitality or a call center, because those skills that you get from talking to people and interacting and communicating, I don't think you can get that from any other job. And so I just think we should own those experiences a lot more, because they are the people that we then become, because it's so character building.
Yeah, it's like that foundational job, all those kind of issues you have to deal with. If you start running your own business, those could be the same kind of problems you have to deal with on a larger scale, but at least you've had some experience of that, no matter how small. It's like, I think people do forget how formative those smaller jobs can be. I think every one of us has had that kind of job that you probably think, oh, it didn't really impact me. But when you start thinking about it, you think about the experiences it added. And, when you were buttering those sandwiches in the back, thinking, I want to be like them almost. And you've been able to do that. It's like, I think drive and passion are like 50% of what it makes to be a successful entrepreneur. You can have a good idea, but you have to have that drive to push it forward. And I think if you're in any kind of job, even if you think this is just a job before I get something else, there'll still be something that you'll learn from that. And the fact you can carry that through is really, really amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I think we're always told, you have to have this amazing business idea in order to start. And I really want to just get out there, it's no. So if I still had the same idea I have for the business back that I did 10 years ago, we would have gone out of business a long time ago. The point is that, okay, great, you've got a curiosity, you're interested, go on the journey, go find people, explore. You don't have to have this killer idea to start. And I think that's why one of the reasons why we set up first, because it's that first steps into self-employment and entrepreneurship. And don't hold on to that idea. Let it evolve, iterate, test it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. You can keep going and have loads of aha moments. It's not just one, it's a series. So I always say it's not like one light bulb that you always see. It's a string of fairy lights because as you get an idea, it will then take you on a different path, and then you'll just go on this journey. And some might be broken, and some might be a different color, or one might be going flashing mental, and the others are nice and chill. But it is very much a journey, and so I encourage anyone who's curious about starting up a business to just find those ideas and opportunities in your local community.
Yeah, that's good, because even if it's not your initial idea that works, through just trying it, you might say, okay, that didn't work, but something else. So many people think these really successful big businesses, they made little things and maybe they made mistakes. They had to pivot or change. And I think that kind of gets lost. People forget that part of a story. It's always good when entrepreneurs say, you know what, I might be successful now, but I had these decisions. I made the wrong choice. Something didn't quite work out, but I found another way, another path through. And it's kind of nice to sort of, once people have made that first step, which you help with, then they can see, okay, is this a good idea? And if it is, I can run with it. But if it's not, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a hobby that I was doing. Maybe I can turn that into a business. And it just gives you the opportunity to start something, even if it's not from that initial idea. It's really good.
Yeah, and I think as the world evolves and the more uncertain things get, I think self-employment and is going to be a really important part, hopefully of every person's life. While either if you're actually the person setting up the business or you're part of a family who are supporting someone in your family that has a business, I do think it is going to be a way of us future-proofing our communities. So when we get our next big shock, whatever it is, a crash, another pandemic, we are going to have much more resilient communities because people have the tools and the knowledge and how to access things in their local community and build resources and speak to, Sally down the road because she's got something that you need in order to help you, and then maybe you can help her back because you've got something that she needs. Like, it's all entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
And I think if we built our new society after coming back from the pandemic with enterprise skills and entrepreneurship as that golden thread running through education, jobs, anything to do with the economy, really, then we're going to be in a much better position moving forward.
Yeah, it's building that resiliency into your community, and then it helps build a stronger community. Then if anything else in the future comes on, you can change the way your business works, you can adapt new technologies. I mean, that's what happened during the pandemic, more sort of deliveries for like products came in and various other things as well. So it's just kind of making sure that no matter what the future has to throw at us, we're ready for anything, really.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I could talk about this all day. So, but if you look at all of the great shocks, like economic in the last 100 years, so the first one in the 20s, what came out of it? Disney. If you look at the one in 2008, what came out of it? Airbnb. We've just had another one. What is going to be, that next killer business that everyone's going to be like, wow, our lives have changed?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like AI, for example, that had been around for a long time, but when generative AI with ChatGPT came out, it just revolutionized the whole tech industry overnight. And we're still not quite finding what the limits of that technology are. It's growing at a pace that we've probably not seen before. And, somewhere like the Northeast where we've got a broad set of different companies and people who, as long as they know the opportunities are there to get that first step into their business, you never know. It could be someone in the Northeast could be pioneering the next technology or at least making the most of what's available at the moment.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a really important point there about people knowing about the opportunity. So we're really passionate about that because I'm very conscious that there's people that know and people that don't. And there is a big divide starting to happen. So we're introducing this year, making sure that all of our entry-level courses have an element of how to utilize AI and have that introduction, because I'm very conscious that it's going to start becoming a big divide. So we're on the front line of that and we need to bring people along with us. And it's just great to see as well, we've got the new immersive lab on Eldon Square. So if anyone is interested in getting the goggles on and all of, I mean, as far as I know about like virtual tech and stuff, but that space is available in a place that is accessible to everyone. And we were just talking about this before about, wouldn't it be great if, family are walking past and, one of the kids goes, oh, what's that, Dad? And they go in and then all of a sudden these kids are immersed into this latest state-of-the-art technology, and then that sets them on their career path for the rest of their lives. Like, I just think we need to have more of those serendipitous moments created and where people are as well. So instead of having them in these secluded business centres that no one's ever heard of, in fact, actually, the Helix, they did some market research with the local community around there, and they said in Fenham, they said, what do you think of all those new big buildings that have emerged? And they said, oh, it looks like an alien city, and I don't think I belong there. And that I've always remembered that, and it's like really important that everyone feels like they can access these opportunities.
Yeah, there's opportunities for everyone. These amazing developments that we have up here are accessible to everyone. Those could be the places you work in the future, or those could be the places that set you on a different path on your journey or whatever. It's just having those opportunities be as accessible as possible is the most important thing, isn't it? Okay, great. So you mentioned hospitality before. So has there been a dinner or a drinks occasion where you've been inspired by someone or something?
Yeah, I had to, as soon as I got this question, I got it straight away. So when I very first started the company, it was with my co-founder, who's now exited, Caroline Theobald, and I had really no idea that the business community existed. So I've been running the cafe, I've been running music events, I was straight fresh out of uni, and she basically said, oh, why don't you come to this lunch with me? And I was like, yeah, okay, give it a go. And it was for International Women's Day. It was part of the Community Foundation, and it was their Women's Fund lunch that they do, and they get a lot of really inspirational people from the business community there to then hear about the great causes that the Community Foundation supports. And I was on this table that Caroline invited me to, and I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect. When you think of business, you think of suits and briefcases and just like totally alien world to me. And I got there and I got sat down, and I was very, proper and like silent. And then the person next to me, all I heard was this effing this, blah, blah, loud, just totally like everything that I didn't think the business world was. And I sort of turned and I was just like, who are you? And it was Lucy Batley. And for those that know our wonderful Lucy, she is a very cherished and inspirational business leader in the Northeast. And why so many people love her is because she is unapologetically herself. And I think she is a fantastic role model for anyone in business, because she really shows who she is from that very first point. And I think the more people can do that and feel comfortable to do that in the business community and every community really, the more ideas, opportunities and support that we can give each other. So in that very first event of being in a very high-pressured business environment, I found a role model. And I think everyone can find that first role model in terms of and when they go out networking for that very first time, you can find that person and you can be like, right, that's who I want to set my ambitions to be more like. And whilst I don't really do as much swearing as Lucy, I am getting to that point where I do, if I do see something that I'm not happy with, then I am getting to that point where I am beginning to challenge it and to ask questions. Whereas before I would maybe have just gone, okay, fine, no, that's not okay, but I'm not going to say anything. And now I am getting to that point where I am thinking, actually, I am getting that activist-y kind of vibe, because I think the business community, and I'm going to go on about it again, but like it should be inclusive and accessible for everyone. And if anyone is ever made to feel uncomfortable at a networking event or something like that, then that's not on them. That is on the event organizers and the people that are making other people feel uncomfortable. And I just think we need to create environments where everyone feels like they're part of the business community.
Yeah, no one should be feeling like they're not part of a community, no matter which community is. Networking events can be a little bit intimidating when you first start out. So it's always nice to have somebody there you can sort of latch onto and see, you had that with them where you could just sort of see how, like, I want to be like them, because that's the person that people want to speak to. That's the kind of people you love to have at a networking event. It just sort of brings everyone together and just makes you feel like this isn't the way I thought it would be. It's much more interesting than that. The community is so much more dynamic and inclusive when it's like that. When it's not, you don't want it to be like that. So that's really, really nice to hear.
Yeah, and I think, just to go on that networking vibe, because I again, I could go on about it all day, but for everyone, I always get asked the question, like, oh, but networking's so hard, and it's so difficult, and how do you talk to people, and what happens if you don't know anyone, and all of this stuff. And the only advice that I always give is that the only way you will start to enjoy networking is if when you walk into that room, you see people you know. And the only way you will know those people is if you go out networking. No one in this world, and challenge me if you want to, but no one in this world can walk into a room of people they don't know and not get that feeling, because that is a primal instinct that I think all of us have. And if anybody doesn't have it, let me know, because I want to know who you are. But the only way you can get rid of that feeling is if you look around and you see someone you know, and then you're like, yes, going over to them, and then you just have a lovely time.
Yeah, that's the best way to sort of get into an event. At least there's one person you can talk to. And then once you relax into the event, maybe they'll introduce you to someone else. Maybe you'll pluck up the courage to sort of break into a little group and say hello. I mean, it is the hardest thing. I've done it myself where I've gone to a networking event and it can be difficult. But then you do. You see someone you know. You say hello, they'll go, hey, there's someone over there who might want to talk to you. They introduce you, and then you're away. It just, again, it's just breaking the ice at these events. It's really nice to have that one. So if there's someone you know who's going along to an event, go along with them, and, you'll never know what might happen.
Exactly, Peter.
I could have done with this. I could have done with that advice when I started doing networking events, because I struggled with them. I did, and I was like, I found it very difficult. I did go to an event where there was like really nobody there that I knew, and there was actually one person, but I had only just met them. They literally recommended an event and said, hey, there's an event tomorrow. Do you want to go? And I was like, okay. So I went there, and he was the only one I knew. So I went up to him and said hello, and through him met another person who I then joined their group, and it sort of grew from there. But it's funny how it was that one person who just happened to say hello to me at an event. And then I went to an event where I knew no one but them the following day. And that definitely opened up a few more opportunities for me. But I might not have gone to that second event if they'd not mentioned it, or they weren't going. I would have said, I don't know anyone who goes to that one. So I understand that it was difficult. So it's just making that first connection.
Yeah. And then it's a chain reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't realize that. I was so intimidated. I'd done presentations and talks. I didn't feel intimidated at all. But going to an event where there's just maybe a dozen or so people there, I was like, I can't do that. Yeah, I could do a talk to 100 people. But I can't talk to one person. Why is this? It's just that face-to-face. But once you had that, if I'd heard that before I went there, I'd have felt a bit more relaxed, because I was a bit uneasy. And I think if I'd realized, that guy's there at least, I think I would have relaxed more into it. And I've met people there that I've spoken to since and know quite well now. So, yeah, I found that initially difficult. But once I had that one person, and I was like, I want to be like them as well, sort of be, welcoming and seeing if someone's on their own. I hate to see, I used to be the person on their own at events. You'd be like a conference, and I'd be the guy wandering on his own. If I see someone doing that, I'll go over and say hello. And I'll make sure they're not the person who's on their own.
Yeah, because you've got that deep-rooted empathy. You know exactly what they're feeling like. And I'm the same now as well. Like, it's always people sort of standing on their phones or next to the tea and coffee, and you're just like, hello, who are you?
Yeah, I did that at an event recently. It was in there was an event where there was a guy on his own, and I went up to him and said, "Oh, Howie, how are you doing?" And he was like, he was just waiting for someone who was working at the bar.
Oh, nice.
But the weird thing is, he said, "But
Nice.
thanks for saying," because I didn't know what this event was about. So tell me about it. So, so the weird thing is, he was at the event, but because he was just meeting his friend at the bar. He didn't know what the event actually was, and of course, nobody had gone up to him and told him. So, thanks to me speaking to him, he was like, "Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know there was all these things doing that. I quite like It was like he liked gaming and stuff. So he thought, well, these tech companies, I might be interested.
Wow.
So I was actually pleased. I went because I just thought I'll go. I felt a bit silly initially. I was like, oh, he was just waiting for his friend. But then when he was actually interested in learning about the event, and he'd been sitting there all that time waiting for his friend to stop to finish his shift, and no one had spoken to him except for me. So I was like, so after that, I felt I did do the right thing after all, because it is, yeah, when you're at, and I've done that even when I've been to other events. So I see someone on their own, I'll go over and say hello. And sometimes people on their own come to me. I seem to sort of attract people who maybe see that in me, and they kind of come over and there's a friendly face and go, oh, hello. And then it starts from there. And I quite like that.
When you look at a networking event, you think, oh, God, there's going to be all these people there. And 9 times out of 10, in fact, 9.9 times out of 10, when you talk to people who are like seasoned networkers, I hate that saying, but all they want to do is help because they know that they have been in your shoes. And I think if we can remember that when we first meet people, that people are genuinely nice. And sometimes, and I've had it myself, I'm not going to lie, I have had a rude person, you know.
Yeah.
Someone's I've asked for a business card and he's just looked me up and down and gone, no. And I'll never forget that moment. Like, that got me to the core.
Yeah.
But then I reframed it and I was like, well, Charlotte, that was not on you.
Yes.
And he did that to me. He will do that to everyone.
Exactly.
And
it's just the way they are,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, he might have been having a terrible day, whatever. But don't you hold that as something that you've done. And I think we need to all, when we're going to networking events, recognise that, someone might be a bit rude or off the cuff or whatever. And then you just step away from that and be like, well, that's you. And that doesn't fit with my values. So I'm going to go and find someone that I do connect with. And that's okay. And I think we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves and saying, oh, what did I do wrong? And what should I said that differently? Like,
because you end up thinking you did something wrong. You know, it's like, but that's their problem. They're the one being difficult, not you. And you kind of feel bad about things. I know I spoke to someone after a networking event who was very confident and was breaking into groups. And I said, how did you do that? He said, the honest thing is, a few networking events ago, I was just the same. I couldn't do it. I broke into one group, said hello, said my name, and did that more and more and more, to the point where within a few events, I was just doing what I'm doing. But I started off with not talking to anyone, talked to one person, and then grew from there. And then you think, wow, that's someone who's like that. I'm not so far away from these other people as I thought. You know, it's learning about their experiences. And when you do find those bad people, you can just walk away and talk to someone else and realize that person's just going to be like that to everyone. And nobody's really going to work with a person like that. But the person you talk to next is going to more than make up for that bad person you spoke to.
Too right, Peter. Yeah, you say it so eloquently, and yeah, you're absolutely right. So if anyone's listening to this podcast right here, right now, we challenge you, go and find that networking event, find something you're passionate about, and just go and get immersed into it, and then tell us how you got on.
Yeah, exactly, because you never know what you might find. You might find some people who have the same interests as you. Maybe you'll find a new interest that you never even knew existed, or you'll just meet someone really interesting that you want to talk to. You just never know what you might find.
Yeah, or a husband or a wife.
Yes,
or,
you never know. So, was there ever a moment that you know of where you inspired someone else?
So I found this one the most challenging to think about because, I'm just me, and that's what I do, and I can't think really of that moment where I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing what they're doing because of me. Like that, I find that incredibly cringy and difficult to consider. What I would like to happen is that, so for every learner that joins one of our courses or experiences or does Startup Awards Northeast, And if they ever do research and look at first as a company and then see who the founder is and then go, oh, they look like me. Maybe I could do something like that.
Yeah.
Then that's who I want to inspire, because I remember very dramatically. So she was the dean of Newcastle University Business School, and Sharon Maven, she once said, you can't be what you can't see. And for me, that's always stuck with me. And I just think if I can inspire learners to think, well, bloody hell, she did it, then I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
And I think, so I don't have a particular, one moment, but I would like to think that I hopefully am inspiring all learners to take that, step into that curiosity. And, you don't have to start the business, but just to consider self-employment. That's all I want anyone to do, is just to consider it. And if I can be that shining light to say, I believe in you, go for it. And just try it out before you spend all this money, before you piss people off and, go down this rabbit hole of starting this business. Just share your ideas and find some people. If I can inspire people to take that step into the unknown, then I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah, and it's almost those unknown people. You'll never know who you might have inspired, but you also might have that occasion in a year's time where you talk to someone who started their business and you say, oh, how are you doing? And they say, do you know how I started? It was thanks to you. And that'll be that moment. So you might have that moment to come, but it's always nice to know that there's going to be people you inspire, even if you don't know that. Just by doing what you're doing, someone's going to see you and think, oh, I didn't know I could be like that. I didn't know that was an opportunity for me until I saw whoever was doing it, if it was yourself, Charlotte, or anyone else. It's like, that's the opportunities that other people can kind of give. You don't realize who you might be inspiring, but the fact you might inspire at all is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if this sounds a bit big head or whatever, but I do have people that come to me and say, oh, you really inspired me and stuff, but I don't want, I just find it difficult to talk about, I guess. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose you've helped people get started, I guess, and, without the opportunities that you've given them, they wouldn't have been able to do it, or they might not even have known about it.
Yeah, but also, the reason why people have got to where they've got to is because of their hard work.
Yeah.
And I actually got corrected because I used to say, oh, it's because of this one person, I'm now doing what I'm doing. And it's like, no, it's because of hard graft and not giving up and creating opportunities for myself.
Yeah.
That is how I got to where I am today. And yes, people have enabled me to open doors and to find those opportunities. But we need to take more ownership on where we have got to.
Yeah.
Because I think all too often it's easier to say, oh, I'm doing what I'm doing now because someone did this for me. And it's like, no, you found the opportunity. Yeah. You found the value. Someone can be introduced to 100 opportunities, but it's up to the person to decide to say yes, or to take it forward, or to put that hard work into it. And that's where the inspiration should come from, is within ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're opening the door for them, but they have to step through it. It's up to them. Yeah. I suppose that goes on to the next thing about how can other people find their own inspiration?
How I find my own inspiration really is about saying yes to things. So, for example, I got the opportunity last night to speak on a panel with the Big Issue founder and editor. And I got that opportunity through an email because I'd met someone through an event who had heard me speak and said, oh, I think you would be great for this. Before I had time to think about it, I just sort of said yes. And I think I didn't really realise the implications of what I was saying yes to. So it's a national panel. It was part of a road show. I'm with these incredible change makers that have been instrumental to the fabric of social change in the whole of the UK. And it got to the point like an hour before the panel, I was just like, oh my God, I was so nervous. But then I recognized that I had to do this to be that role model for the region, but also for the business, for the learners. And I think what inspired me to do something like that was because there's a greater cause here. It's not about me as an individual. It's about that real purpose that we're trying to achieve, which is an inclusive economy. And if I don't say yes to things like that event, how will I affect change?
Yeah.
And I think if you can get an opportunity and put those nervousness aside and just go, no, you've got to do this, because if you don't, who will? If not, what was the saying? If not you, who?
Yeah.
If not now, when? And I've always had that as a mantra in terms of that inspirational piece. JFDI, and for those that don't know what that means, Google it. And then worry about the nerves when it comes to it. And I was saying to someone yesterday, like, oh, Charlotte, I didn't think you'd get nervous about something like this. Like, you're always doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but I never done a national thing before.
Yeah.
But I know next time, hint, hint, if anybody needs me, I know next time I do something like that, I'll be less nervous.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I've done something like that. So I think everyone will always get nervous with the first time you do something. So it's about taking yourself out of that really comfortable environment into that unknown, saying yes, worry about it later.
Yeah, makes sense, because not only are you offering people opportunities, you're taking opportunities as well. And that's the thing, sometimes something might come by and you think, oh, I can't do that. But then you miss out. You don't know what you might have missed out on because you didn't say yes. So that's a good way to think about things, is when an opportunity does come up, just say yes, even if it's something you're not too sure of. If you can do it, then go for it, because that opportunity, you never know what that might open up. You might get invited on more panels and various other things, might do more podcasts. So you just never know what will come from an opportunity like that. And to get on a stage like that must have been fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Finding inspiration. A few tips.
So do you have any advice for anyone out there to find their own inspiration?
Yes, so when we run our networking events, my favourite type of person that comes, and I sort of do this thing at the beginning, so who's here to get inspiration from the startup founders that we're going to have on stage? And people put their hands up, and then people are like, and then I ask the question, so who's here to better your career and put something on your CV? And you get these people put their hands up. And then the third question is, who's here but doesn't really know why they're here? And you get these people that sort of sheepishly put their hand up and they're like a bit embarrassed and stuff. And they are my favourite people, because they have just seen something and gone, ooh, that looks interesting. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm going to go and see what's out there. And I always find those people are the ones that are going to then go far. So I've actually seen it from students who are coming to the end of their courses. They've come to an event. They've gone, I don't really know why I'm here. I'm just here for the free beer and the pizza. I'm going to have a laugh, and you can see that kind of glint in their eye. And then they hear from a startup founder and they go, oh, wow, I didn't know this existed. Like, they're like me. They're only a couple of years down the line. They graduated 2 years ago. Maybe I could do something like that. And you can see it almost ignite in them in that 2 hours that they've been at that event. So top tips, if something piques your interest, just go to it.
Yeah.
And how you find those events and opportunities, go and look for your local growth hub. So all regions have a business growth hub. They should have an event section. There's a curated networking events and workshops and all of that, all for free for people that are curious about self-employment and just get emerged. And even if going to a face-to-face event isn't you're not quite there yet, try some online stuff.
Yeah.
Look on LinkedIn, put in what you're interested in. Say, for example, AI, you're going to find thousands of events that are all online. Go to one, and worst case scenario, you go, it's a bit crap. All you have to do is close your laptop.
Yeah.
You know what? You've lost nothing. And then it might be that then you go to an online event and then you think, oh, actually, this is really interesting. I really like this subject. Maybe there's something in my local area that is face-to-face that I can now go to. So taking it step by step, I think, as well, is really important when you're on that journey. Because I think all too often we always see the kind of end, like, you see it, we call it like a 10-year overnight success. So first is getting a lot of publicity now, like we're really getting recognised. And for some people, they won't know the journey that we've been on, and they won't know that we're 10 years old. And all of a sudden, like they're seeing me everywhere, and people will always look to the end result and not necessarily focus on that journey. And I think the more we can break down that journey for people and be like, but you went to that online networking event, that was brilliant. Like, celebrate that as a win, because you're going on, you're taking that first step in that journey.
Yeah.
And not seeing it as this big, oh God, I don't know, the Lord Sugars of the world who have got, these empires. That's not what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is creating value for yourself and others.
Exactly.
And so breaking it down and getting rid of that stigma of what a business person should look like, and just saying, well, actually, I could do that, and maybe I do want to do that, and here are the tools and here are the people that I can meet in order to progress that journey.
Yeah, because you just never know. When you look into the journeys of these big companies, they started small, Amazon started in a garage as just a guy who wants to sell books online, or eBay was just to sell, I think it was a laser pointer or a pen, just wanted to sell it online secondhand, didn't have anywhere to do that. It's just like a lot of these companies, they seem massive and intimidating, but they started small with one or two people in exactly the kind of environment we're in now. It's like you never know where a business might come from, and just having those sort of opportunities there, for it can be a small event, like you say, just start with something small. Even if you go to an in-person event, it's not that great. At least you've got the free pizza or whatever, haven't you? So there's no real issue with getting yourself out there, because that's how you find what you're interested in. Try a few different things, like you say, because you'll find the one for you. And once you do, then you can broaden out. But if you're not sure what to do, doing nothing's probably the worst thing. Doing something, the smallest of steps first, because from there, that's when the giant leaps come in.
Exactly. And if you want to look at some local role models that have done just that and have been, I remember them coming into these first events, and they're so nervous and so new at this experience. So global teacher Chris Nutman, he came through as the winner of the Ideas Prize as part of Startup Awards Northeast as a graduate. He's now running an amazing charity giving third world countries access to education through solar panelled projector screens and machines, low carbon materials. They were graduates, PhD graduates, who got inspired to then use their research and commercialise that. They were Earthshot Prize finalists last year. You've got the likes of Equinox. There's so many incredible stories of young people, and you don't have to be young, just taking those first steps. And when you're ready, the business community is there to welcome you with open arms. Yeah,
it's never too late to get started, isn't it?
Exactly.
You could be any age.
Exactly. And, I think in hindsight, in my own journey, I started the business at 27. And you can't you don't think, oh, in a way, I kind of wish I'd done a bit more working for a big, massive company or something like that, because my whole work history is it was hospitality, and then it was first. So I would have loved to have had a bit more experience in the commercial world to then apply that into my business. So, if you're 40, 50, 60 and you've been working for someone else your entire life, but you have the skills and the ability to actually take what you've done in your employment and make it cheaper, faster,
Yeah.
better quality, why not?
Yeah, exactly. You can sort of take that experience you've had in a job you might have been for many years and do it yourself. And if you can, do it even better.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so Charlotte, that's really interesting. So there's something I want to ask about is this, you received something recently, a purple plaque. Can you tell us all about that?
Yeah. So, the purple plaque, the whole reasoning behind it is to recognise innovators, women innovators who have basically come up with a project or an idea to help grow their business, but also affect change in society, the economy, the environment. And it's all run by Innovate UK. And one of the motivations for them to do it is because they recognise that only 16% of blue plaques had women as the plaquee, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was a call to arms to say, right, let's get more women in prominent places to act as role models,
Yeah.
not just for other women, but for everyone. And essentially, I was awarded that plaque, and I gave it to Newcastle University Business School and in thanks for them recognising me and giving me a scholarship.
Yeah.
And the plaque was so we've created our own social value impact tool. So all of our contracts are government contracts. So we want to make sure that we are communicating how much, so for every £1 invested in First, how much that is then generating back into society and the economy. So we've come up with a tool that is able to give us an accurate representation of that through that Innovate UK grant that we received. And so the award was a purple plaque and then a grant to take that idea forward. And so we're now in that stage where we're taking that tool and not just using it for First stuff, but actually working with universities and combined authorities and how they can communicate their social return on investment for enterprise skills and entrepreneurship. And then the ambition is, as a result of this project, I've got this vision of like being at the door of number 10 Downing Street with this impact report and be like, look what entrepreneurship and enterprise skills can do for the UK economy, and here's the evidence and here's the proof. So that's what it was in recognition for. And it's now in the reception of Newcastle University Business School, and I just hope that it just, one person looks up at that and goes, oh, she's got a funny name, I'm going to Google her, and then be like, oh, she runs her own business. Oh, maybe I could do that, and that's what it's all about for me.
No, that's fabulous. It gives, again, another opportunity for people to discover the work you do. Anyone who goes there now will see that plaque and they'll inspire. So that's another object of inspiration, I guess, for those people potentially in the future. But it's really good to see the kind of impact you can have and show that small businesses have a massive impact on a region, especially like the Northeast, where we've got a lot of modern businesses. There's lots of ideas. There's lots of people with ideas who maybe haven't quite executed them yet. Just need that first step into making it into a real business. But it's good to have all of that and demonstrate that value to the government to say, if you invest that money, you'll get it back multiple fold. And that's really, really good to hear.
Thank you, Peter.
So thank you very much, Charlotte. This was Talking Inspiration, and it's really great to speak to people like yourself. So if you enjoyed this episode, you can like it, share it, or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Niltoni Broadcast Network, NBN, popcorn for your ears.